I would like to introduce the first speaker for today, Dr. Karan Watson. Dr. Karan Watson is currently Provost Emeritus and the Regents Senior Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering. Having joined the faculty of Texas A&M in 1983 as an assistant professor, she is also serving as a co-director of the Institute for Engineering Education and Innovation. She has served in numerous administrative roles at Texas A&M University, including Provost and Executive Vice President, Vice Provost, Dean of Faculties and Associate Provost, Interim Vice President for Diversity, and Associate Dean of Engineering. Dr. Watson is a fellow of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, the American Society for Engineering Education, and the Accreditation Board of Engineering and Technology. Her awards and recognitions, including the U.S. President Award for Mentoring Minorities and Women in Science and Technology, the American Association for the Advancement of Science Mentoring Award, the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering International Undergraduate Teaching Medal, and numerous faculties awards at Texas A&M. She has served as President of Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology and the President of the Education Society of Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Dr. Karan Watson.
So I realize I'm between you and the awards, so I'm going to try to say something that at least keeps you awake as we go forward. So the first thing you have to understand is not everybody in Texas says howdy, but everybody at Texas A&M says howdy. And the rules are, when I say howdy, you're supposed to say howdy back, okay? Howdy. Howdy. That's the welcome. You know, it works so great here because whenever you want to start a class, you just walk in and say howdy, and all the students say howdy right back to you. So it's important. This conference is very important. You are going to save the world, and God knows it needs saving, okay? And I'm not being facetious. And it's important that women are in the center of that role. Not alone, not without some great men. Thank you very much for being here today. We spend a lot of time as the underrepresented group in a room, and now you're getting to have that chance too. But if you're going to change the world, you need to understand that it's not just important to be strategic on the change, on how we can step toward the goals of the change we're after. You have to really understand the change process. And they are not the same. They are often assumed to be the same. But when you are planning, often people plan for the strategic steps that will move you toward change and not for the actual process. Because every change that you're going to be involved in requires people to change their behavior. And that is a different process than just intellectually telling them what they should do. So one of the things you should understand is when you're going to change a culture, and you're aiming to change many, many cultures, not many cultures. If I say about Texas A&M University and people say, oh, the culture of the university is blah, 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 I say no. I say there are 114 tribes loosely affiliated, each with their own culture at this university. And the thing to do is get them not to shoot at each other. But when you try to get a culture like that, where you're really talking about a bunch of cultures to change, you have to have various strategies for all the changes that you're trying to have happen. I heard people talking about how you get the companies to invest in what you need to invest in, how you get the time you need people to put to it, how you get on the agenda at certain times. There's a lot of strategies, but none of those things necessarily make people change their behavior. Edgar Schein said, "You cannot create a new culture. You can immerse yourself in studying a culture until you understand it. Then you can propose new values, introduce new ways of doing things, and articulate new governing ideas. Over time, these actions will set the stage for new behavior. If the people who adopt the new behavior feel, not think, feel it helps them, the organizational culture may embody different sets of assumptions and different ways of looking at things. You are after that kind of change. You cannot just get a stick. Let me tell you, you cannot have a title and mandate. The surest way on an academic campus to ensure nothing will change in the curriculum is for the provost to say, I think you all should do this. It immediately meets a great deal of resistance because that's not your job. You're not in that position to tell us how we should teach the students. So you have to understand there is a difference. They can be the same person, but there is a difference in leadership and being a change agent. One of the things you have to understand, both as a leader and a change agent, is you are going to meet with resistance. Human beings resist change. It may be for a split second, or it may be for a lifetime. But there is going to be resistance. It is even said the only humans who like change are babies in dirty diapers. So why do people resist change? They feel like they're losing control. These are by Rosabeth Kanter. She's found they think they have a loss of control. There's excess uncertainty. When it's a surprise, it's easier to say no. Difference is distracting from our main mission. A loss of faith. They're not sure they're competent for the new way. It seems like it's going to be more work. There's a history, we do it the other way. Why are you messing with us? And there's a threat. My position may be threatened. On the other hand, Rick Meyer says there's levels of change. There are people who intellectually don't understand what you're trying to accomplish. We make the mistake often of assuming people are always resistant because they don't understand. So we just speak louder to them because they don't understand what we're saying. Or we say the same thing over and over again thinking maybe they didn't hear us. But then there's an emotional level based on their values and beliefs. And somewhere in your message, they have come to believe you're undercutting their values and belief. You're undercutting competition. You're undercutting capitalism. Your goals are messing with our deep values and beliefs. And then there's even a deeper reason. It's historically based. It's hard to trace with any sort of logic. It may just be because you're you. And anything you're for, they're against. We had a group here who thought anything that had the word sustainability was a bad and evil thing. That was only 15 years ago. Haven't heard so much from them lately. But they were around for a long time, and you just had to think about it. So what you need to understand is people change. This is from John Kotter, who has studied change a lot. People change because they are shown a truth that influences their feelings, not because they were given endless amounts of logical data. Now, the data is necessary, but it's not sufficient. When changing behavior, both thinking and feeling are essential. Highly successful organizations know how to overcome the antibodies that reject anything new. But first, a process of change must happen that uses both head and heart before you're going to get people to change. And sometimes you have to decide the roles. Sometimes the leader is supposed to create the head and the heart's going to be filled in by the change agent. Sometimes a leader can do both. So when I say they are different, they overlap, but if a leader has to help create a shared vision, a change agent has to promote that shared vision. If a leader has to be grounded in where we are now and really understand who we are now, a change agent has to tell people where we're going to land, has to help them see them. You can't get people to let go of the trapeze swing if they're not confident somebody's going to catch them over there. And a change agent has to help them know it's going to be okay when we get there. A leader has to think strategically about the goals, the timing, and the resources. A change agent has to think about the resistance and the organizational culture that is normal when it resists. Not misbehaving, but normal. A change agent and a leader have to build trust. But a leader usually has to be the holder of the vision that we're going somewhere. A change agent has to build trust that we're going to be okay getting there. Both have to listen with respect and honesty, but a change agent has to honestly turn setbacks into wins. You've heard the saying, they have to make lemonade out of lemons. So, I'm telling you that you have to decide strategically, are you in a role where you're supposed to be the change agent, or whether you're supposed to be the leader, or both in different situations. And you can change on different changes and with different tribes to different roles. But you have to determine that, and you can't be confused about it. You have to step back sometimes as a leader and create the environment and then get out of the way and let it evolve and emerge like it's going to emerge because you created the environment. So why is this hard for women? So I'm going to take a few more minutes to tell you what you already know. What you know is that there is still both implicit and explicit bias for women being in both the leadership and the change agent role. You know what those things are. I was fortunate when I went into engineering decades ago that we went in a spurt of growth from 1% women in engineering to 4% women in engineering. And after my freshman year, I never had any other women in class with me. What an advantage that is. My professors knew my name the first day. What a disadvantage that is. Every time I misbehaved and skipped class, they knew I was missing, okay? It comes with good news and bad news. But we all understand what implicit bias or microaggressions are. Let me give you one of my personal examples. One of my examples is I was hired at 27 years old as an assistant professor, the first woman on tenure track at Texas A&M University in electrical and computer engineering. I worked hard, like I think my colleagues did, to earn tenure. And then one of my friends, the day after they announced I had received tenure, was going to be awarded tenure, said, well, you knew they were going to give it to you. Why did they make me work so hard for 5 years if they were going to give it to me right away? He never realized how denigrating that made me feel. That somehow, no matter how much I did, I was going to get it anyway. And the fact that he was one of my friends and could say that told me there were a lot of other people. So then what happens? Well, Virginia Satir says, we must not allow other people's limited perceptions to define us. But we do. We get imposter syndrome. We start to worry that maybe I didn't work as hard as everybody else. Maybe I didn't prove myself the same way. But Rebecca Schamberbaugh says, it's not a glass ceiling as much as it's a sticky floor. That we then do things that keep us down. They may be necessary things. Her lists are, we are more responsible for figuring out a work-life balance than our male counterparts are, still to this day. Although I commend some men are doing their shares, but on average, it's not happening. We have a loyalty factor. We stay in a role too long. This is studied. She studied women in positions. We stay because we're loyal too long. We go for perfection versus excellence too often. We don't build strategic relationships. The doors sometimes aren't open for us the way they are for others, but we don't understand and work to build the strategic relations we should. We don't understand the politics of the tribe we're in. We think people will think and feel like we do, instead of understanding politically what's going on. We don't often, or don't always, make sure our words count. This is where introverts have an advantage. Sometimes you look really smart when you're sitting there thinking about what you're going to say instead of blurting it out. But most importantly, we don't ask for what we want enough. So she says, don't let yourself get stuck to the floor too much. I want to read you a poem. I use this poem a lot, but it's by Mary White. Sometimes you don't have no control over the way things go. Hell ruins the crop, or fire burns you out. And then you're just given so much to work with in life, and you have to do the best you can with what you got. That's what piecing is. The material is passed on to you, or is all that you can afford to buy. That's just what's given to you. Your fate. But the way you put them together, the quilt you make, that's your business. So don't let imposter syndrome or the sticky floor keep you down. And then the final thing is we don't recognize our own strength. It was in some of the sticky floor things I just listed, but I'm going to talk about it explicitly. You don't recognize what you bring to the table. And in this time, when we are taught often that it's okay to play dirty because everybody else is, it's not. It's not. You win by playing justly and fairly. So I think that you need to remember that sometimes you need to understand what true belonging is, whether it's for this cause or it's some other one that you have. Brené Brown, true belonging is the spiritual presence of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being a part of something and standing alone in the wilderness. You will find yourself in the midst of a crowd, surrounded by people who believe like you, and you will often find yourself totally alone. So let me tell you, I served this university for many years. And I was in my 7th year, ending my 7th year as provost, and I said, I'm going to step down in a year, y'all find my replacement. And 2 weeks before I was to step out of the position, they fired me from the position. That I hadn't been ethical enough. I had followed all the rules. They found nothing unethical I had done. But I will tell you, in back conversations, I had not agreed with some powerful people about what we should do. And then they came at me in a place they knew would hurt me, my ethics, because I had always said, be ethical. Your integrity is important. But they will still come at you when they're most afraid of you. Don't convince yourself that you won't be alone at some point. And your friends will be silent because the battle is not being fought out in public. And so then you have to make a choice. about what is your strength. I had an argument with a philosophy professor that sometimes people value loyalty over integrity, and I thought integrity was more important. And he chastised me, and he was a wise man. And he said, you never have to make a choice. You are being loyal to somebody when you tell them they're wrong. You can keep always your integrity and your loyalty, because lying and telling something a falsehood, pumping them out, is never true loyalty. So, I have, I'm not going to sing, I promise, because I can't. But Roxana Ward, and this is my closing statement, wrote a song. It's called Remember Who You Are. There's no other way to get where you're going than the road you will walk alone. There's no better dream than what lives inside once you have made it your own. When the clouds of doubt catch you off your guard, just remember who you are. There's no one like you, no one quite as special. You've got all you need to take care of yourself. Make your magic happen. Make life the best it can be. And when the clouds of doubt catch you off your guard, just remember who you are. You're both the singer and the song, the painter and the painting. Don't waste your life waiting. Make your mark. Remember who you are, and when that voice of doubt calls to you in the dark, just remember who you are. Thank you very much.